Coming up, a Sad Styles production. Get into it!
So, Andrew.
Oh, God, it was scary. Okay.
I know we just finished
Retrograde.
the scariest month of all.
Yes.
But it's time for FeBOOary.
Mikey, I'm so not excited for this. I just recovered from Retrograde, and I'm still just now feeling safe again.
Andrew, you and I both, we don't like these scary games,
No,
but we have a
don't.
commitment to God.
The country, the flag on which we stand.
To scare ourselves to little bits and pieces at the beginning of this glorious month we call FeBOOary.
Yeah, and February is the scariest month of the year.
What is scarier than the it's life, it's age. We're getting older.
Yeah, getting older is scary.
Getting older, all of a sudden you look around and you're feeling a little bit lonelier.
Yeah, 100%. Being lonely is scary, especially if you're like alone in like a haunted house or something like that.
Or in a just a nice, well manicured house. Maybe there's some life goals in there.
Right.
Just the concept of existentially, you're face to face with your own mortality. That's pretty scary, right?
I guess existential fears is not really what I thought we were going to deal with this month.
Well, no, I mean, you said you wanted to deal with the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, right. I did. Yeah,
and the scariest thing in the world is obviously commitment and relationships. I mean, I'm not saying anything untowards here. You know,
well, okay, yeah. Well,
what did you mean when you said FeBOOary? Because
I thought we were going to get attacked by zombies or like animated stuffed animals and shit like that.
Usher doesn't sing about zombies. What are you talking about?
Not. No. Wait, Usher's the scariest singer of them all?
Well, no, but he has the song with Alicia Keys, My Boo.
Yeah. Oh, FeBOOary.
That's what you meant, right?
You think that means like relationships and like
the scariest thing of all time?
Oh, God. Wait, which game are we doing today?
Well, this week on the Retrograde Podcast, we take a look at Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, for our first episode of FeBOOary.
Dream Daddy. Welcome to the Retrograde
Podcast, where this week we help you find your dream daddy.
I'm Dream Daddy Andrew Bascom, and with me, as always, is other Dream Daddy, Mr. D, the Dream Daddy bad boy of podcasting, D-Dop himself.
Big Daddy Mikey Aaronworth.
I'm little sister Andrew Bascom. Okay, everybody, FeBOOary is here, just like you remembered and loved it.
And you know what? I bet you all of our listeners were out there thinking, they're going to forget again.
It has been, I think, 2 years in a row now.
I think 2 years that we forgot about FeBOOary. We were a week late for Retrograde, but that was on purpose because we had a big game that we had to review the week prior, or the first week of October. But yeah, we're back at it with FeBOOary, the scariest month of all time, or I guess of the year.
Is it the year so far?
Have other months existed prior to our
January?
current understanding? No, of just the regular 12 that we know. Maybe.
Was there a month that they were like, get this month out?
We forgot about it?
Yeah, like us with FeBOOary.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
eventually they're like, oh, did we not do Catil's Day?
March, April, June, July, and eventually they're like, I'm pretty sure May was supposed to be in there somewhere. Look, if you're new to this podcast, first of all, thanks for listening. It's a podcast brought to you by the two favorite video game journalists that you've never heard of. For what reason, I don't know.
We're so dreamy and we're so daddy-like.
We're so dreamy and we're so daddy-like.
Oh my God, daddy.
As we mentioned with FeBOOary, we're taking a little bit of an odd turn. We misinterpreted what the boo in FeBOOary is supposed to mean. So we thought, let's take the month to talk about dating sims, dating games, romance in games, all that sort of good stuff. And we're going to start with 2017's Dream Daddy, produced by none other than Game Grumps, which is weirdly, it's like a web series.
Yes.
And they kind of came to the table with a couple. They've actually produced a couple games and developed the games themselves. They voiced a lot of the characters.
Good for them.
A lot of the daddies. Yeah, it's crazy to think about where this game came from.
Yeah.
Especially as we get into sort of the story of it. If you haven't heard anything about this game, listener, buckle up, because I didn't know too much going into it either, apart from the fact that a lot of people were liking Dream Daddy. Or talking about it.
A dad dating simulator.
A dad dating simulator. The subtitle can mean 1,000 different things.
Yes.
I thought I knew what it meant. I was wrong. Did you know before you started playing this game, Andrew, and before we tip our cards too much, because we both have some love stories to share, I think, from this game.
Quite a few.
Do you have did you have any impression of this game prior to booting it up?
No, like Dream Daddy's a very odd name, so you're kind of like, oh, Dream Daddy, this is going to be weird. and then a dad dating simulator. You're like, okay, I can get my head around this.
Sure.
What I thought before I turned on the game,
yes,
and what I think now after playing the game
are two wildly
two different things.
I thought it was a simulator for dating.
I did too.
If you were a dad.
Okay, because do we start talking about the game?
I think we have to.
I'm not going to ruin the whole thing, but I was saying in the beginning,
yes,
you start by it's doing a very classic kind of RPG thing of like, you know, what's your name again? And like, so you're shaping the...
Yeah, there's a wizard knocks on your door.
Okay, there kind of might be. Well, I'll get to that.
Oh, yes.
So
what the fuck is this game? Okay, yeah.
So, but in the beginning, it is a little bit of like, you are given options. So there's a lot of dialogue boxes.
Yes.
And then every once in a while, you're given an option to, you know, throw your own personality in. And in the beginning, it is help shaping. You get to shape your character completely into what style of daddy you are.
Physically.
Yes.
Yes.
And you're doing this while talking to your daughter, Amanda.
Right.
It's been noticed that your partner that you have raised Amanda with has died.
Right.
And so you are given options of saying, is Amanda adopted?
Sure.
Or not? Was your partner, former partner, a female or a male?
Yep.
Things like that. And so when I was playing this game, and this is the first couple of minutes, right? So I'm playing this game, I'm going, oh, okay. Huh, interesting. So I'm thinking that this would influence the decisions or the person I am.
Sure.
That's when I texted you going, oh, wait, are you definitely gay in this game? The answer is yes. And none of that mattered previously of saying, were you formerly married to a woman? Were you, like, none of that mattered, which I thought would have shaped your interests going forward.
I wonder, well, what did you select? Did you, so you're telling your daughter a story of your partner, her
mother. Or her mother to me, because I chose a woman.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Her other parent.
Yes, her other parent. Yes.
Apart from you. I chose mother as well. And I was curious what that would have done to inform the rest of the dialogue options if you had chosen male.
I wonder, right?
Because what they don't do is reconcile with the fact that you were married to a woman, in my case, in your case, but you are immediately fawning over every man in the cul-de-sac.
And it's completely unspoken between your daughter and you that, of course, you are into men.
Yes.
Like that is assumed.
Yes.
And so much so that.
And now you're very much against that sort of thing, right, Andrew?
I was going to say, I'm a tremendous bigot. So this game was very hard to play. I have no problem with that. It was just so weird that like everyone knew but me that I'm gay.
Including,
and I'm like, okay.
When I'm fostering relationships with some of these people, it wasn't until so I was going to ask you this question. When was it that you realized that this game was going to be about your player character dating other men in the area?
Mikey, much like my relationship life, I was probably the last one to pick up on the hints that everyone was giving. So it wasn't until Robert was like, hey, do you want to go home together?
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
So Robert is a character in this game who is the typical like bad boy of the cul-de-sac.
He's got a leather jacket.
We'll set it up by saying this. The cul-de-sac is the area of Maple Bay, which is the town that you moved to. And on this cul-de-sac
you just moved to.
Yes, with your daughter.
So a big part of the opening is that you're leaving the house that you raised it with your former partner who's now deceased, and you're moving to a new area. So it's a lot of meeting these new people. Sorry, you go ahead now.
Yeah, and at first you're thinking you're just meeting other people in the neighborhood, but it comes pretty clear that each of the men whom you meet are potential romantic partners.
Right.
And they all happen to live on this cul-de-sac.
There are 5 men.
Yes.
That all live in a cul-de-sac with you.
Yes.
Who are,
for the most part, single fathers.
So they are all single fathers.
No, not all of them.
Oh, no, you're right.
Yes.
Because Matt's not. No, Matt is. Matt has a kid.
Matt has a, Matt's
the barista.
Matt is the barista. Matt has a kid. No, it's Joseph, I think.
Oh, Joseph definitely does because he's married to the woman.
That's what I mean. So single father. I said single father.
Oh,
So he's the only person who's not a single father.
Okay, so the understanding is though, and I'm so sorry if I'm closed-minded, but I like to think I'm a pretty easygoing guy with this kind of stuff, and I could care less what people, as long as it makes people happy. Every one of these men who have had kids, with women, are now very gay and on the prowl.
And all aware of it.
Oh, and like it is an unspoken thing that like I am clearly not picking up of, and maybe this is because I am also not a gay man.
Yes.
And so maybe I'm really bad at picking up these signals, and I'm learning a lot. And it's like walking in a mile into somebody else's shoes.
Right.
And when Robert's like, "So, what's up? We doing it tonight?" I'm like, whoa.
Right. Okay, so let's go back to that first scene with Robert, because that's kind of when I realized what was happening, because there's 2 major plot points there. This is after you've gone home to your new home, you've unpacked, and you've decided to go out for the town. So I'm assuming that the decision you made that night, because your daughter basically says, I need the house, I'm having people over.
I'm having Emma R and Emma P over.
Emma R and Emma P. And it's important that you remember their names, because that's one of the mechanics of this game, is remembering key bits of information that people tell you about, so you can bring them back and impress them to show them that you've been listening generally. She asks you, your daughter, Amanda, what are you going to do that night? And you have a few different options. One of them is to kind of like stay back and do whatever you want, and just or like go to bed or something. Another one is like go watch the game.
Yes, which is a very funny little trope that they do. So I want to talk about the writing a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
It's very ham-fisted.
Yes.
But at times can be very funny.
Yeah, it feels generic. It feels predictable, but also popcorny in a fun way.
I think it's very aware that it's like playing on a trope.
Yes.
And so much so that he wants to watch the game.
Yes.
The game is capitalized.
Yes.
Because he speaks so generically about sports that it's clear he has no idea what they're talking about sports. And like he's like the team in which colors that I enjoy watching seem to have scored more points than the opposite color, and that is a good thing. And
then even when you have this thing with Robert, who is sitting he's the bad boy we talked about in the leather jacket. He's sitting at the bar, and you have an interaction with him where it's clear, and it says this in the dialogue, he supports the team whose colors you do not support. and he says that his team is better than yours, and you remind them that your team is higher in the standards. But all of this is just using like the proper noun team and like all that, like capital T team and all that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's just playing fast and loose with the idea of like this could be any team, or if it's just funny that,
or he is completely unaware, and he doesn't care. He just had to get out of the house, and he's acting like a guy's guy.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Which is clear he doesn't. You know what his biggest interest? You know what the titular daddy? So I assume Mikey.
Yes.
Mikey daddy, Andrew daddy.
Yes.
We're big fans of sleep. This guy loves sleeping.
Sleeping, eating, grilling.
Grilling
is a major theme in this game.
Major theme. It's either he wants to be grilling or sleeping, and that's it.
So okay, let's leave the Robert bit for a little bit, because that's kind of a key,
we'll get to that.
That's kind of a key moment when we both realized where this game was going. But tell me a little bit about the dad that you were crafting. Tell me about Andrew.
Sure, it was Andy B.
Andy B. Okay,
Andy B, the dream daddy. So you're given very, I don't know, not stereotypical, but very like outsized personality type things.
Sure,
you have big, hairy guy with his gut hanging out. You have big, kind of muscular guy. You have ripped to the shreds guy.
Yes.
And then and then skinny type. And so like they're all like very outsized, like comic book style characters, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing. It's like there's also like almost an anime style to it too, with like some of the eyes and some of the characteristics and stuff like that they do. Because everything is, none of it's like trying to look natural or normal.
So much so that you can make Goku in this game as your dad avatar, as your dadvatar, as they like to call him.
And so
directed by James Cameron.
Yeah. And so other than your look, your look is always, your avatar is always on the bottom left of the corner.
Yes.
So you can always kind of, I don't know, it's kind of actually a nice like reflection of like, you look down and be like, what would that guy do? You know, what am I doing here? And so he did. He looked like me. He was bald. He had a beard.
Yours looked really good.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I also just saw it. I'm like, yeah, that's like the best I could do with like, you know, I get it.
I tried to make myself, and I looked like Leisure Suit Larry's son. Like
you looked like real Waluigi. You looked like if Waluigi came through the portal and is like, I guess I got to get a job in banking.
And we'll post, I'm sure we'll clip in images of ours to the video if you're watching over on YouTube. Sure. Otherwise, we'll post some clips on our social media channels that you can go take a look at our daddies. When you were thinking about ways in which you would answer questions, did you have a type of dad in mind? Did you have a type of person that you wanted to be when you were crafting your answers?
So that also, we'll get to kind of some of the broader stuff, but there is lots of options that they give you to tightly hone what your interests would be as your dad.
Yeah.
And you know, my problem is I started by thinking, well, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to look for a nice person who seems to genuinely care about the people around them and stuff like that. And so for about halfway through the game, that kind of works.
Yes.
And then later on, they really make you make decisions, and none of them seem to line up with my own interests. So I then took a left turn of going, well, I guess I'm super into like grilling and, you know, whatever.
That is one of my major issues with this game. I First of all, I designed my avatar, and I hated that dude. I don't know if that says something about me, but I hated what I was seeing when I looked into his eyes. I think it probably does. And then I get to finding out a bit about the template for the character that you are, because there's only so much you can craft in terms of the world building in your head of who your character is. But the first thing that happens, you get to the house and you have 4 options. It's like, do you want to unpack? Do you want to go to the coffee shop?
Right.
Do you want to go to the dog park, or do you want to take a nap?
What'd you do?
I went to the coffee shop.
I did too.
Right. And the first thing that your dad says is, you get to the coffee shop, he's like, ugh, I can't believe we're going to a coffee shop. Why don't I have a coffee at home? I don't want to talk to strangers. I don't want to do any of this shit.
Okay, I wrote down I can make better coffee at home.
Yes.
I'm like, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
You absolutely cannot.
And that there was my first disconnect where I'm like, I go to the coffee shop every day for the express purpose of like running into strangers and having these interactions. So now all of a sudden I'm playing a character in a game that will not let me play it the way that I want to play it. And I'm like, and then I was bumping up against my own player character a lot. And I think that's an issue that I have with games like this, where I have trouble role playing as anyone but myself.
Which is something we've established on this podcast a lot. You and I have trouble doing this. If I make a sports game and I make a character, guess what? It's gonna kind of look like me.
Yeah.
If I was 6'9" and like a svelte 210 or something like that, I can't do it. I all of a sudden lose track of why I'd want to build that character in the first place. And so it's the same thing with this, except I should have read into this earlier that it's going, don't be you, be somebody else. It is
your
a
dream daddy.
It is a dream daddy,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
It's not realistic daddy, you know?
No, it's not. I had an idea in my head though, like based on some of the answers, like the first instance where your daughter wakes you up. You're like passed out. You're sleeping a lot. You're sleeping a lot. Which sounds amazing.
It does. You also you seem like a bad dad to Amanda sometimes.
Oh, do you think so?
I think there's times where you could be a better dad to Amanda.
That's true. Some of the questions you ask her when she's upset don't give you a lot of options.
No.
A lot of good options.
I say as a childless man in my mid-30s.
Yeah, how dare you judge?
Yeah, it's like, you guys could be way better fathers, all of you. I'm gonna go back to my home where I have no children.
So Amanda wakes you up as you're unpacking. This is like before you even move to the place, and this is just sort of an example of what you have at your disposal to build your own dad, to who you are. She wakes you up and you have a couple options. One, you just wake up and you say, oh my God. The other is you pretend like you're dead. And the other is you say 5 more minutes. Let me sleep 5 more minutes. And I said, pretend like I'm dead.
I did that too. Jesus Christ.
But here's the problem. I can't imagine anyone playing these games in a way where you answer something too different from what I was saying. There's always kind of like a right answer, because no one sees themselves as the bad dad or the unfun dad.
Right.
Everyone's like, I'm the fun-loving dad.
Yeah.
Sure, I work too hard, but I'd never let my daughter know that.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of thing. And there isn't always an answer for that, which in my mind is what everyone is always going to pick.
Also, you said I'm play dead. I don't think that changed anything other than the short conversation you had right immediately afterwards.
That's what I worry, but there's no real way to know.
I guess
not. And that's kind of why, the way to know would be to play through the game again and make notes of any of the differences. But we played this pretty organically. We didn't realize actually that the game is only, you mentioned this before we started recording, about 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours. That's what it says.
You and I each put in around 3 hours. So we were pretty close to the end, and it gave us enough of an experience to know kind of like what we're getting ourselves into. Let's talk about some of the candidates in the cul-de-sac. Do you want to do that?
I think this is a great idea. Can I ask you just a question first?
Sure. So,
what was your daddy's band's name in high school?
Oh, what was my daddy's band's name? I forget the options.
No, that was later when you named the drink.
Right, naming the drink. Do they assign a name to you?
He says it in a line that his band's name, because he's super into ska.
Yeah, there was a ska title. What was yours?
Scommunist Manifesto.
I think that was mine as well. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was mine as well. Yeah.
Her daughter, her pet name growing up is Sir Hamilton the Brave.
Yes.
She has Cheesy Tostada Blast with 3 Zs. The Macchiato DeMarco. Like there's
macchiato. So when you're naming the coffee drink at the coffee shop,
which coffee name did you give it?
I did. There was one really silly one that was. It was. Or no, maybe I'm thinking of the apple pie or something like that. But it was like Grateful Dead.
Yeah, so Grateful Bread for the banana bread.
Grateful
banana bread.
Banana bread. Yes.
Yeah, mine was banana bread Kennedy's.
Yes,
Dead Kennedys.
yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and the coffee one that I had was was Godspeed You Black Coffee. yeah. I like Godspeed You Black Emperor. And there are a lot of weird band references in this game.
There's a lot of band references.
Like Pup is in the game.
We let's get to
Okay.
Let's get to that because that inexplicably Pup is a real band
From Toronto.
And they play a song in it.
Yes.
DVP. And
Yes.
I was like, I'm watching, I'm like, what the fuck, like real Pup? And then they show up.
They show up
And I'm
as,
like,
as animated characters in this game, or
he's
drawn
wearing
characters.
his Redmond High School
Yes.
t-shirt. And I'm like, the fuck is going
It's
on?
wild.
Everything else was made up. Everything else. There was no brands. There was no cities. There was no nothing.
Yeah.
And then a real band shows up and plays a real song. And you're like, I felt like I was having a panic attack.
It was really strange when it happened, but I did when that song kicked in, and we'll talk about that because it seems like you and I went on a date with the same person.
We did.
That must mean.
I tried to go on a date with everybody so that I could talk about this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about all the characters. So this is right. So we're at the coffee shop.
Yes.
And then it starts cooling. I start dawning on me, right? Because here's my notes. Matt is so hot, coffee shop guy.
He is.
Next line. So many single dads with kids also happen to be super curious sexually. Next line. Wait, am I gay? Wait, does your daughter know you're gay? And it goes on from there until I go, oh, and I just write,
I see what's happening
So
here.
there we go. There's like clearly me dawning. I feel like Homer at a gay bar. He's like, wait a second. You know, like it's just, I slowly clued in, and yet it made me so happy when it did, because then I was like, okay, well, here we go.
I was like, all right, this is
Let's
the
go.
life that we're living.
Yeah.
I got a message from a buddy of mine, an old university buddy of mine, the Craig of is that his name? Craig is the university
Bro.
buddy? Yeah, the Craig of my life, who
Craig.
reached out to me because I was playing on Steam, and he saw that I was playing on Steam. He's like, "Do you lose a bet or something?" I was like, nope. I will say before we go too far into this, I understand that there is a demographic for this game, not just based on the fact that you are a gay dad, but based on the fact that it's a dating simulator, heavily text-based. This is not my style of game. I found it boring. So the decisions that you make, I thought were too few and far between. They describe this game as a visual novel, Game Grumps does, and that makes more sense to me even than dating sim, because you don't do a lot in this. Even when you go on dates, you're given 3 or 4 things that you can do to influence the outcome of the date. And it's just answering a question in multiple choice. And that feels a little bit hands off for my experience, for what I want to be doing. Did you feel the same way about this style of game?
When I read it, it was a visual novel afterwards. I was like, because this is more reading than I've done in a while. I was like, wow, that's a lot. Except I disagree with you. I think I actually really like this game. I can't believe I'm saying this. I actually really like this game.
Really?
I thought it was so fun and funny, and I think we can start talking about some references. But let's talk about the characters first.
Sure.
But there's some stuff this game does where you're like, whoa, that's cool.
There really is. Let's talk. You talked about the coffee shop because we both went there first. It's called Coffee Spoons.
Okay.
And Matt, who's the owner of it, who also has a daughter, says it's named after a very famous poem.
Okay.
Do you know what the poem is?
No.
The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Oh.
I've measured out my life in coffee spoons.
Yeah, right.
And or as I like to
Didn't
say,
put that together.
I measured out my life in coffee pods. Love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, version 2.0.
Isn't that your like?
It is. It's like my bio on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I was like, why does that sound familiar?
Yeah. So Matt, cool as shit.
Very cool.
Very hot.
Very hot.
Very hot.
Holy
hot
shit.
as shit. Biggest problem with him?
The only thing that
Little dick.
My coffee wasn't the only thing that was hot and black. My God. Matt's a hot steaming pot of coffee.
Yes. It was intimidating to be around him, but I immediately started to dislike him because of how self-conscious how openly and outwardly self-conscious he was.
Yes.
It's just not an
attractive quality.
quality.
It isn't.
Because we're all self-conscious.
Yes.
And when you're constantly calling yourself out like, oh, I'm so embarrassed about this. Like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable doing the blah, blah, blah.
Totally. And your daddy your avatar is super self-conscious as well.
Yes.
And he's very like anti-personable or not personable. And so he has struggles to do it too. And to both of you feel like you're just butting heads.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So after the coffee shop, we go to, and this will cue us up to our next person. I went to the dog park. Did you do that?
I did too, yes.
Okay, so there I got hit in the head with a frisbee.
With the frisbee, yep.
And you meet a nice, cute little corgi with the corgi's dad, Brian. Brian. He is a capital D daddy.
He's a capital D daddy, capital B bear.
Capital B bear.
Oh my God.
I liked Brian even less than Matt.
I didn't like Brian at all.
Brian brags about his kid.
Yeah.
So much so.
This is what blew my mind.
This was a ton of fun to get into. So you get in this conversation with Brian. He immediately starts to brag about his 10-year-old daughter. Yeah. Your character says, I know what's happening. This is like, I need to start bragging about my daughter. And you enter into
a Pokemon battle.
It's awesome.
It's 8-bit, no color.
Yes.
It completely changes. So everything is in pastels, flat. You'll have cutouts that kind of pop in and out.
Yeah.
And then they cut right to a Game Boy screen. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing, everything is down to a 0 thing. And even to the character becomes an 8-bit like thing.
Yeah.
Slides in and oh my God, I couldn't believe this.
It was amazing. You're given a couple options. There's like brag, which is fight. And you don't know what you're going to brag about.
Yeah.
You can use an item and there's just random items there. There was
initials that I forget what it's.
DHTR.
Yeah.
And then there's flee.
And there's flee.
Did you do anything apart from brag?
I used all the items.
Okay, good. Oh, you used all the items?
All the items.
Really? Okay.
Some work, some don't.
Yes. So one of the items that I used first was Band-Aid.
Oh, nice.
just to see what would happen. It describes your character as trying to apply the Band-Aid to your daughter, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "I don't know what I'm doing." And then you lose HP.
Yes. And then others was like art project, grade, like report card.
So you show your daughter's report card to Brian. To
Yes.
brag to him about your daughter.
And what I didn't like about Brian, first of all, it was also a alpha male daddy situation between the two of us because I was also a big fat guy, and I was like, man, there can't be two of us here, and
there ain't room for us on this cul-de-sac.
100%. I showed him the art project. He's like, well, that's not very good. I'm like, don't you fucking dare talk about my daughter's art project like that. I've gotten really close to Amanda. I love this woman. I will fucking tear your corgi in two.
I lost pretty quickly in this, so I didn't even get to do everything.
Oh, I won.
You won?
I won.
I got smacked.
See, the problem is if you just brag, you're going to lose.
I didn't just brag.
Okay.
I tried once because I didn't know what DHTR was. Did you click on that?
Yeah, I did.
It's daughter as though like Pokemon, and it says you can't switch your daughter. You only have one, which was fucking, that really made me laugh. That really made me laugh. No, I lost. I tried to do the bragging thing. They bragged back. I tried, I guess, the wrong items because I was going for like, I wonder what if, as opposed to the smart choice of trying to win. The way it played out for me, I thought it was unwinnable. But that's very interesting. So what did he
just
say
barely
when you won?
Kind of like begrudgingly. It was like, oh, that's interesting about your daughter.
That's amazing. Did you get any props from Amanda?
No, she's still kind of grumpy with you because you're like, your dad, stop talking about me. Like, you know what I mean? Like the bragging and stuff like that.
Oh, really? She didn't. She was like on page with she was like, oh, fucking that kid's like a goody two shoes, and then we kind of laughed at her. It was like I did better.
Oh no,
her. Yeah.
That's smart. Yeah, I probably did too much.
Yeah, maybe you're trying too hard.
So yeah, that's Brian.
And
then Robert, I went to the bar.
And then I went to the bar.
So
as
I met Robert next. And
wait, what happened when you got home from the dog park? Did you not have a knock at the door?
Joseph came.
Joseph comes by.
Yes,
Joseph. I first saw him.
So I want to talk about the bar as well. So don't say too much.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. So Joseph is tall, blonde, as preppy as all hell.
Very preppy. A wrapped sweater around his shoulders.
Looks like he came straight from the yacht sale.
Yes.
The yachts. Not a yard sale. The yacht
you need to buy 2 to 3 more yachts.
The yacht sale is when you have all your yachts in your yard and someone comes and buys them for pennies on the dollar. He comes in and he's got like a tray of cookies or something like that. And he's smooth as shit.
He is smooth.
He wins me over very quickly.
And you know, the thing that really got me was the end where you made a joke. And so this is joke and it kind of doesn't go well because he asks about, well, where's Amanda's mother? He's like, well, she died. And he's like, oh, that's really awkward. He's like, close the door. And you close the door and you open it again. And he knocks and you open it again. And he goes, hey, I'm definitely not going to bring up your dead wife. Let's talk about this. And I was like, that's kind of funny. That's charming.
It's very funny. And in my mind, I'm like, this is my guy. At this point, I'm like this. Whoever this dude is, I like this guy. Even though I don't like his aesthetic.
No,
and I don't like his preppiness. But then you find out.
Well, okay.
I'm not going to ruin anything. Okay, but that he's a youth minister.
Oh yeah, that part I was like, oh,
And I'm like,
damn
oh,
it.
fuck, there's always something.
Except I did like the little touch at the end. So you're joking or whatever, you're laughing, and he's like, yeah, come by the ministry anytime. And you're like, okay, cool. And then he does like reach and touches your arm and goes like, seriously, if you ever need anything, okay? And I'm like, man, that's a good guy.
Yeah,
that's a good guy.
yeah.
Like, joking aside, it's easy for guys to joke and not talk about their feelings. And there's one thing to go like, no, I'm actually here if you want to talk. You're like, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did like, I was like, oh, Joseph, that's really sweet.
Now, if you weren't a youth minister, I would have given a lot more credence to him doing that.
Sure.
But I always have this thing in my head of like, what's his ulterior motive? Does he just want me as part of the tribe or something like that?
Yeah, sure.
But he did win me over there. And that was kind of like my first instance communicating with another character in the game where I was like, this guy I could go for.
So you go to the bar.
So you go to the bar.
And so before you talk to Robert,
yes,
you're trying to like whatever. There's this person that's working their way down the line,
and it's Jim and
Kim's bar, which I did write down. Jim and Kim's fucks. I would absolutely go to this.
That
bar.
place looks amazing. It's got Christmas tree lights. It reminds me of Santa's Pub in Nashville.
It's just like a dive,
yes.
and it's got like it's just so whatever. And I was like, oh my god.
Wait, what did you have in your notes about it?
I said Jim and Kim fucks. I would go there in a heartbeat.
I said this place kicks ass.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, we're totally on the bar. And so it says somebody's working their way down the bar to talk to you. And a woman pops up as a character avatar for the first time in this whole game other than your daughter. A woman who
can get it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do you remember her name? I don't remember
Mary.
her name. Mary. Thank you very much. And
as in fuck, kill, or.
Fuck and kill, all three. So she comes down and she's like, hey, like big sailor, like let's talk. And you're like, all right. And that's before I realized in this game,
yes,
you had to only be with men.
Same. I was thinking at that point, I'm like, okay, so everything else, I was like, my radar was going off a little bit.
Your gaydar.
I wasn't going to say it.
Oh no, what is wrong with me? Yeah. I'm turning into Mikey. Even Mikey was like, no, not for me.
no.
And I'm like, yum, sloppy seconds.
But when I saw her come in, I was like, okay, so you have the choice. It doesn't have to be men. Maybe there are a couple women as a choice. But it doesn't give you an option to really communicate with her that much.
I didn't get that far because it says she's clearly drunk. And so she's like, buy me another drink. And I said, no, thank you. I'm not buying you another drink because I was trying to be responsible. And I thought that was going to give me some kind of like weird bonus, nice points of going, don't take advantage of this drunk woman.
Not for Mary.
No, not for you either, it turns out. And so she fucks off, right? And Robert sits in her place.
Oh, I had more of an interaction with Mary.
I'd love to hear more about Mary.
So I did buy her a drink because she was already drunk.
Oh, so you see that dress she was wearing? Jesus Christ.
Also noticed, because I look for these things. I'm a man of a certain age. No wedding ring. So I'm like, all right, let's do this.
I have always been bad at that.
Really?
I never noticed rings, and to the point that I'm getting married this year, right?
Hey, congratulations.
And, thank you very much. This is news to Mikey. And I bought wedding bands, right? And I had to look at the person and go, it's the left hand, right? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks.
I just didn't know, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know these kind of things. So yes, no wedding ring.
So no wedding ring. And she comes up to me and listen, I love a dive bar. I was single for a long time in my life.
Yeah.
Most of my life.
Yeah.
The majority of my life.
And future.
And the idea of going to a dive bar and just talking to strange people was like always very appealing to me. And she comes up and she's like, do you want to know a secret? And I'm like, fucking absolutely. That's what she asks me. She says, do you want to know a secret?
Really?
Doesn't let me say yes. My character just says, no, I don't. No, thank you. And me and my avatar just separate even more completely.
Right.
And I was pissed off. And then that's when she fucks off.
Okay, that's very interesting. And we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Robert sits down. We've already described our interaction with Robert. You're kind of just watching the game together. How did this go for you? So you kind of get to the outside of the bar.
Yes.
They take you to the street like scene.
Yes.
And he's like, and there is an option to kind of walk away. Or maybe just like kiss. And I just go for it where like, he's like, you want to come back to my place? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Oh, did you?
And I sleep with him that night.
You did?
I stay over at Robert's. And here's the worst part is I wake up just like my daddy. My daddy and I are now one where I'm like, hey, sweet. We got to be with Robert. That's pretty cool. He's a bad boy.
He's a cool dude.
I hope we wore protection because that guy's definitely got an STI. And I woke up and he does the same thing I did where he goes, Amanda. And I'm like, oh, Amanda, Jesus Christ, we have a kid. And I was like, dude, we can't just not go home.
Oh, I thought you meant Robert says Amanda.
No, I do. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. We left our daughter home alone all night. And so like you peel back in and she's like, rough night. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And that's why I wrote down like, oh wait, so your daughter's totally in on this idea.
Wow. Well, no, but how would she have known that you were with a dude?
She didn't. Well, I guess that's totally fair. You're right. She could have been anybody.
Yeah.
But she is aware.
Maybe you were with Mary.
Maybe I was with Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, she's making you breakfast.
Oh, wow.
And it's very
That's
cute.
not a good feeling.
No, but it bookends later when you're making her breakfast after you kind of get in a fight. So
interesting.
It's kind of a nice moment. So how did the interaction with Robert go for you?
So Robert, listen, you say 4 words to Robert. I did a shot with him in the bar.
Yeah, we did a shot too. Yeah.
Whiskey. Yeah, it was whiskey. And my guy could barely handle it.
Barely. He's not a drinker.
He's not a drinker.
No.
But it's that whole thing in a movie where you do a shot and then you go like, whew, I've never understood that. No
I
one
will
does
say,
that.
as a person that has spent a lot of time in bars, a lot of people do that.
Do they?
A lot of people just, and then you go, why are you doing shots then at all?
Yeah.
Like people do like, oh, can I just have like a Coke or something like that? And you're like, really?
Yeah.
It's an ounce of, I could do an ounce of bleach and I think I'd be okay. Like I'd be like, ooh, that wasn't good, but I think I'm okay.
I don't even need a Coke though.
Also, is the lights on or am I blind now? Oh, I'm blind. Oh, okay, cool.
Well, I wasn't blind enough to notice that Robert was like kind of coming on to me at that point.
Yeah.
I knew that was happening and I could see kind of the writing on the wall, but we didn't really talk much. He takes me outside and he's like, so we doing, that's what he says. So are we doing this?
Yeah.
And you have the option to say, no, I'm going to head home, or like play coy or jump in with both feet.
Yeah.
And I went home because I didn't get to know him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of daddies in this place.
The classic Mikey response. I'm just going to go home.
The funny thing is like back in my heyday, I would have been the Robert side of things. I would have been like, let's do this.
Yeah.
But now I'm a father.
You are a daddy.
I'm a daddy.
You're a daddy.
I have responsibilities.
Yeah. Amanda.
To Amanda.
You're a better father than I am.
So
I totally
said no.
forgot. I was like, the second I was like, that guy wants to rail me. I'm like, fuck him, man. Amanda's out of here.
That's the thing. I didn't know. I felt like he wouldn't respect me afterwards. Like I was just the
Would
new.
you respect yourself?
Probably not. That's
Right?
fine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Actually, I would.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
So I said no. And that was kind of where we parted ways. I went home and I think I said hi to Amanda and then we watched like some Ice Road Truckers of the Paranormal or something.
But it's a Canadian. So
Yes.
part of me thinks that these guys are Canadian, right?
It isn't though, because
that they're not.
They're not.
That's the shocking thing.
Yeah.
They have Pup, a Toronto, at the time, 2017 when this game was made.
Yes.
A very local Toronto band. Now Pup is kind of a really big band.
Yeah.
And good for them. And so you think, okay, whatever. And then like the Canadian reference, you're like, oh, these guys are Canadian. And you're like, they're not?
They're not.
Like,
Yeah.
oh boy.
But they
okay.
clearly are aware that we exist up here in Canada.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah.
They know how to spell it. So that's good.
That's true.
But yes. And then, so, okay. So the next day.
Yes. Did you, because there was one person who we didn't bring up yet, which is Craig.
Right. Do you run into him on the street?
You run into him on the street and he's your friend from university who we mentioned earlier, and he's in great shape.
Yes.
He's jacked. He's on a jog.
He's got a baby Bjorn on.
He's got a baby Bjorn on. But he has 4 kids total.
Okay. Yeah. So what is with, it's, okay, I wrote that down too. Not only do some of these people not have one kid, they have so many kids.
So many kids.
Joseph has a bunch of kids.
Joseph
Craig
has too many kids.
has a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? The other thing is, what is in the water of this town? Everybody is looking to prowl. And so I actually wrote down, Jesus, Robert comes on strong. My first love.
My first love.
Here's every interaction. I wrote a generic interaction with every character. So plot. You want to fuck? Okay. Where was I going to say?
Well, you were talking about Craig and what's in the water, and everyone's on the prowl.
Oh, I don't know how many people. I don't know how people in my life have trouble meeting romantic partners. I just moved in, and 3 men are openly trying to molest me. That is my interaction with the first 15 minutes of this game.
Yeah, it's very clear, and they're all really good looking too.
They're all so good looking.
Craig the next day asks you to go to the gym. Did you go to the gym with him?
No.
Oh, you didn't, eh?
Oh, I didn't know. Did he ask me to go to the gym?
Maybe you slept in too late or something.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't in my own bed when I woke up.
There you go. Mm-hmm. So I went to the gym, just an annoying scene of like you trying too hard at the gym. You literally like fall off your treadmill and then hit a wall or something like that.
That's a
and I'm
rom-com.
Yeah, but like stupid. Like I want to impress Craig with my endurance in real life, and my fucking avatar's there just being a little idiot. I hate him. I don't like my avatar. I don't want to play as him. I want to play as anyone else. I want to be able to build some of your own character stats that will allow you to relate to certain people more or inspire what your character would have said.
Okay.
So you didn't miss much at the gym with Craig.
Okay, good.
And I also found, like, once I caught on to, like, that's what was going on in this game, the idea of hooking up with an old university buddy felt weird. Isn't that
so weird?
Yeah.
When you're describing to Amanda, your daughter meets Craig.
Yeah.
And also the bro and the dude thing, I just couldn't get past. It was every second word.
He was very like Jim Bro-y. Yeah.
And you're like, we called him Keg Stand because he does keg stands.
Yes.
And you're like, cool. And you're like, whoa, that's so weird. Then again, it's not really when you think about it. And you're like, because you think about the opposite gender and you're like, oh yeah, we knew each other in university. And then later in life, you fall in love.
Yeah,
you're
I guess
that's
so.
not the, I just think it's weird if you're like, you were roommates or something like that.
And
like,
nothing happened until now.
Yeah, you like, especially if you had the dorms like I did, you were sleeping 4 feet away from somebody.
Yeah.
And then the whole time you never thought about it. And then now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I saw that guy for 10 seconds.
In my 30s? It's hard to say how old these people are either way. They got to be 30s.
No, they're 45 because
they all look great for 45.
They look incredible, but I did the math because you met him 20 years ago or something. You haven't seen him in 20 years.
Oh.
And so I was like, okay, so let's say you graduated 22 and then whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way
to
put
it. There was a line, he said a line there and I actually wanted to do the math.
Ah, okay. That makes that.
Also, Amanda's going to university next year.
Right. So she's at least 17 or so.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense.
Kind of lines up. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, there's one more person that you meet who you hadn't met yet. Did you go to the parent-teacher interview?
Yeah.
So you meet Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo, who is Amanda's teacher.
Amanda's teacher. With a mustache, they wouldn't let me pick for my avatar, but it's perfect.
Also, Hugo's pretty hot.
He's pretty hot.
He's also dressed very dapperly.
So when I saw Hugo, I'm like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
That's definitely my guy.
Yeah. That doesn't shock me. I also thought that you'd be into Hugo.
Yeah. He seems very sure of himself. He likes the arts. He's an English teacher. All things I can get on board with. He's a dapper dandy. But you don't get to interact with him too much at that first meeting, right? That comes when you...
It's also not a flirty conversation because he's speaking about concerns about your daughter.
Right.
Like nothing crazy, but she's just not involved. She's clearly not trying.
Yes.
Is there any issues at home? And I said, my wife died. Did you give a reason?
Wait. They didn't even give me the option to say that. They said we just moved.
We just moved. That's
okay.
Right. That's what it was. We just moved.
Yeah. It was like we just moved. She usually tells me everything or no, everything's okay or something like that.
Yeah. It's either denial.
Yeah.
You make up an excuse or you tell the truth. Yeah.
Like Will Smith.
Yeah. Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
And then I slapped him.
I rocked him.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's good.
The next, I think, kind of like big plot point though is the mixer.
Yes.
You go to Joseph, who's hosting a barbecue in his backyard
for the cul-de-sac.
The gorgeous cul-de-sac.
So all these men
are
in one backyard together.
Yes.
Whoa. And that's not the shocking part.
The shocking part is
Joseph is married to Mary.
Yes.
The woman that hit on you in the bar. I gasped out loud.
I felt so guilty for liking both of them.
Yeah. I was like, so we doing this? Or because she slides in like, there's a glass of wine over there being unattended to. And I went,
and she's got a wedding ring on in this scene.
She does.
Yeah.
I know.
So, you know what though? When I first saw her in the bar, she has like a cross on and I was like curious because they were very obvious with Joseph being a youth minister.
Yes.
So I was like, either this is a very religious town or maybe there's some relation there. So I wasn't as surprised when I saw her, but what a great addition to the plot.
So good. I honestly gasped. I was like, oh, no.
Did you pursue Joseph at all in this?
No.
So I did, and I'll talk about it later, but there's some interesting story elements that come between you and Mary as a result of the story. Yeah.
Oh,
so
can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting because I think this is probably where our stories are going to start to separate a little bit because you have to start to make decisions on which daddies you're going to dream about.
And do you know why? Do you know how they do that? Is they create a social media platform called Dadbook.
Which is a bad pun, but there are a ton of bad puns. I don't even know if it would constitute a pun.
It's a pun. Pun on what? Face and dad? It's dad. I thought dad bod would have been funny, but it's too far away.
But maybe that's what dad book is.
Oh. So it's a place where dads can talk.
Yes.
That's the way they describe it.
But-
a place where dads can talk.
Yes.
Literally a social media platform created for the 5 men on your cul-de-sac in which you can discuss and ask each other out on dates.
Well, that's the funny thing about it is you have to answer as though it's Hinge, like prompters
Right.
to determine what your personality is like.
Okay, so this is what I was referring to earlier. When they start making you cement your personality.
Yes.
But no matter what you choose, you're a crazy person.
Yes.
It's like, what is an ideal Friday for you?
So I
Sleep-
actually have the questions.
Oh,
I wrote
great.
this with all the answers because I thought this would be a fun one. Okay.
Murder somebody, sleep for 14 hours.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. Before I say, okay, so they do give you dad bod as a result of this. Like this is you realizing everyone's on the same cul-de-sac, you're all at the same party together, and you get dad book. You
book.
also learn that Joseph has a tattoo on his arm.
Oh.
And it's an anchor, and it's poking out from under his shirt.
Oh my God, Mikey.
I have an anchor
You have an
tattoo.
anchor on your arm too.
So am
There
I
you go.
Joseph? At this point, I was like, maybe I will become a youth minister. That's when I first started to be like, Joseph's got another side to him. And he kind of hints at it a couple times. So you leave your Stepford husbands in this weird, there's one moment when they're all looking at you in a circle, these just like perfect men. And they're just like, oh, we're so happy to have you as part of the community. I'm like, this is the Stepford husbands. Like,
That's exactly what I said too.
Yeah.
It is so weird because they also don't emote, really. So they have this just cutout, right?
Yes.
And they're all just, the cutout is them smiling, having a great time.
and blinking though.
Yeah, which is very
confusing.
odd.
Yeah.
So, and the other one too is that we haven't brought up is that when you're talking to these people, whether you're on a date or not, if you say something bad, little black spores come out of them, right? But if you say something good, little hearts will come out of them. If you say something
great.
really good, hearts, eggplants, and squirt emojis will come out of them. And I just was like,
it's Bret Hart from the WrestleMania arcade game plus
Doink the clown.
eggplants and squirts. Like that's, oh my God.
I was like, oh my God.
And they make sounds like that too, where they're like, "Oh my God," or "Ooh, wow,"
Yeah.
and they're very suggestive.
Yeah.
And Joseph does things like he's the good old Christian boy, and sometimes if he says something, he'll be like, "Oh, Kevin Bacon," like if he's like, "Oh, geez," like, "Oh, Kevin Bacon."
Yeah, cheese and crackers.
Yeah, cheese and crackers. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of funny. So dad book, you're setting up your profile. Because your character doesn't know what social media is. He literally even says that.
Your character's an idiot.
It's so dumb.
Over and over and over again, he's the worst.
Yes.
His wife probably drove herself into a tree. Like, he seems like the worst because she did die in a car crash, by the way.
Wait, did they say that?
She dies in a car for sure because that's when Amanda doesn't come home from her thing. He just
Yeah.
goes, "'Cause your mom." And
Yes.
starts crying. Well, my guy did.
Yeah.
And that's how I guilted my daughter into feeling bad. And,
Oh.
yeah, I know. But I would imagine that he would be more stressed about somebody being gone.
Yeah, no, of course.
Because you're afraid of losing.
Of course.
right?
I didn't put the car thing into it, but
Something else came up where I wrote down later going, I think she dies in a car.
okay. Well, I know he tells the story where at when they were driving to the hospital, he got into a car crash
little
just
fender
outside
bender.
the hospital. But
Yes.
yeah.
And-
Okay,
yeah.
so here are the questions. It's a Friday night. What are you going to do? Polish your coin collection, Netflix and grill, fall asleep watching History Channel, make dad puns to your daughter, or catch up on some sleep. What did you select?
I said Netflix and grill.
Same with me.
Because that's actually what I'd want to do. In my mind, I'm still choosing myself.
Yes.
And I'm reading these things like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
I'm thinking like watch a movie and have a drink is kind of like,
Yeah.
that's a great thing to do on a
yeah, I'll make
Friday.
myself dinner and watch a movie.
100%. I would probably order Uber Eats, but that's just me.
Sure.
You're on a desert island. What's the one thing you bring with you? A trusty grill, lost shaker of salt, shaker of salt.
A grill again.
Grill.
Here
a
it is,
grill.
2 times in a row.
You love grilling.
What's your personality? Grill guy.
But so they're really playing into like the dads. It's puns, grills, lawnmowers, and sleep. Those are apparently that's all you can be as a dad.
Yeah, History Channel and war documentaries too.
That's it. Yeah. So okay. So desert island, a trusty grill, a lost shaker of salt, the Jimmy Buffett reference. Because Margaritaville is also a weird theme that plays out into.
But
this.
he's not a drinker, but yet he
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Castaway on DVD for the survival tips, a boat, or nothing. You're going to rely on your survival skills. Do you remember what you selected?
Boat.
I selected Castaway on DVD for the
Nice.
survival because that's just a funny answer.
Yeah, that's a funny answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I made up.
Oh, good. That's good. Oh, it came
Before I even saw the answers, I was like, that's what I would do.
and then this game came up, and then you're like, oh no.
Oh shit.
Oh god.
God, I need a new profession.
I'm gonna turn on Pup.
So what is your biggest turn on? Which was a weird question to ask for dad book, but
Third question.
biggest turn on.
What makes your like salami rock hard? You're like, whoa, what the fuck? Salami.
White socks and tennis shoes, grill skill, manicured lawn, strong dad arms, or street smarts.
So this is when I realized, well, I
This
got
is
to
a
take
dating
a
app.
different, and I said strong dad arms. What'd you say?
I said street smarts.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
You know, you can have all the strong arms you want, but if you don't know your way around the streets like I do,
Tourists are the best people to pickpocket. You're like, what? What? If I slip and fall in front of this grocery store, I can sue them for a lot of money.
what did you want to be when you grew up? The president of space, a good father, a pro skater and also an astronaut, a salty boat captain, a technical writer for manuals and instruction books.
Salty boat captain.
It's a good one. I chose a pro skater and also an astronaut.
That's the funniest answer. I also, you know what my second choice would have been? A good father. I already have a daughter. Clearly, this guy has zero motivation in his life because it's never established what he does for a living either.
Yeah.
Which you don't also like, your job doesn't define you as a person, whatever, all the kind of thing. But it is odd that everyone else has a job.
Yes.
And yet you struggle to stay awake and look after your daughter, even though there's nothing else compelling your time.
It also seems like it's been a few days and you haven't had to go to work.
No, I don't think you have a job.
Yeah.
Maybe you're independently wealthy. Maybe you invented dad bod.
Maybe you sued the person who hit your wife in a car accident. Yeah.
2 lives got ruined that day.
Movie genre. What's your favorite movie genre? War documentaries, Sean Connery's back catalog, anything on Laserdisc, rom-coms, whatever will make you cry, or old comedies that haven't aged well.
I chose old comedies that haven't aged well.
I didn't because I hate old comedies that haven't aged well. I like old comedies that have aged well.
Yeah.
I went with anything on Laserdisc just because it's kind of appealing to that analog aesthetic that I kind of appreciate now.
Yep.
Ideal date: napping, doing a 1,000-piece puzzle, healthy dinner at 4, trying geocaching and failing, light arson, or being vulnerable.
So this is the first one where I was like, none of these.
I hated all of them.
I struggled to choose anything.
Yeah.
And I think I chose, wait, can you read the first couple again? Sorry.
Napping, a 1,000-piece puzzle, healthy.
I think I chose the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even like puzzles.
I did healthy dinner at 4 because I have done that.
So, that doesn't shock me.
But it's not like that's my ideal date. Not by a long shot.
But that's what you're answering.
Yes. So maybe it's my ideal date.
But wait a second. I almost
Okay, so it's arson. So sue me.
Like a court stenographer. Can you read that back? He says his ideal day would be a healthy dinner at 4. Oh, okay. Well, it says so.
What would you not leave home without? A cardigan, a sick vape, book of word jumbles, a knife, low self-esteem, or you always forget everything.
So the two things that make no sense is a sick vape and a book of jumbles have never shown up once as like an option here.
No.
And now all of a sudden you're like, wait, well, who's this guy?
100%.
I chose a cardigan.
I did too.
Yeah, because I was like, what else?
What
is
else
this?
are you going to choose?
A knife?
I don't want to say my low self-esteem. I'm not Matt.
No, and like seriously. Every question is, one of them is always like, are you cool with crying?
Yes.
Or are you a piece of shit? And you're
Yes.
like, yeah, I am a piece of shit. That's the part that kind of blows
I
my
want to
mind.
get Robert to like me, so I'm saying I'm a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, I'm such a piece of shit. Here's my knife. But it's like every option is either like grill, murder somebody, sleep for a whole solid day.
Yes.
And then I don't know. Like it's always like the answers vary so much. You're like, well, who am I?
None of them are really good. The last question is, you spend a whole lot of time thinking about conspiracy theories, how proud I am of my child, ways the world can end, how I love myself as much as my grill, or will I ever love myself as much as my grill, when I get my next cup of coffee, and lawnmower modifications.
I chose cup of coffee.
I didn't because I only have 1 cup a day.
I was thinking just like beverage, because then like,
Yeah.
you know.
I said ways in which the world can end, because I do actually.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah.
So that's it. And now you have the opportunity to pick the first person you want to set up a little play date with.
Yeah.
And this, I'm pretty sure, is where our paths deter from one another.
Yeah, this is because now you have free thought. You can kind of do whatever you want.
And you choose a person to like
do.
nurture a relationship with. So who did you go for?
just chronologically, my notes are very funny. Dad book, fuck off. Also, before that, when you're talking to Hugo, you're like, oh yeah, we talked or whatever. And Amanda goes, oh yeah, you both have a man crush on Mario Batali. I'm like, Mario Batali, that's a reference that he aged like milk. Like, oh, I mean the guy famous for sexual harassment
Yes,
at a restaurant, closed all his restaurant. Yeah. Yeah, I chose Matt.
Okay.
Because I was like, that guy's hot as shit. So, maybe I can shape him.
And
we went to the concert together.
I was really put off by his weird outward low self-esteem. So he wasn't the first person I went on a date with.
Who's the first person you went on a date
First person I went on a date with was Joseph.
And did you go to the concert with Joseph?
No, you do something completely different.
Interesting.
I did end up going to a concert with Matt on my second date.
So that means that anytime you go on a date with Matt, it's at the concert.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think so. Anyone you choose, you probably have the place that you go with them.
Right.
I didn't explore with everyone, but tell me a little bit about your date with Matt, because I had the date as well. So you tell me your story, and then I'll chime in later with where ours differentiated.
Ours didn't go well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he immediately put out the black spores, and I was like, oh no. I answered incorrectly for something. And this led to also a fun mini game.
Was your question, he was like, are you ready? And you said, I was born ready.
Yes.
And he didn't like that.
He didn't like that. I'm like, what? I thought it'd be fun and
He probably wants someone who's self-conscious. Like, no, don't bring me down to your level, Matt.
Also, I don't need to be you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way relationships work. You know what? Two people that are identical.
No.
So yeah, and I remember that.
Although if you are out there, I'll say to our listeners, if you are out there and you're about 6'2", you got curly black hair.
Yep.
Really small penis. A mustache.
Thin.
Very, very thin.
Like gardener snake. It's 11 inches, very thin. Yeah, and then, but it led to the mini game.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool. So also, this is in my notes where I get to, wait, Pup is in this game?
Yes.
Holy shit, they are. And the song DVP is in it too? How did this happen?
And DVP is Don Valley Parkway, which is a street in Toronto.
Yes, it's a highway that runs through the city.
By the way, I watched recently Turning Red.
Yeah.
Movie based in Toronto. Very good movie.
Turning Red's awesome.
No one in that movie pronounces Toronto properly.
I know, but you know what? No, the director's from Toronto.
But how did he not say anything?
She. Thanks.
Oh,
assumption, sexist. I gotcha. No, I bet you that is for generic, like, I don't know. I bet you that's for like the general audience. I don't know.
But there's so many specific references in that movie.
It is. It's Gerard East too, which is really a cool. I thought that was so awesome.
Yeah,
the streetcar.
It's a good movie. Really good movie. On top of just the fact that it's based in our hometown. Yes,
it's a good movie.
Yeah,
and the fact that it ends with like a kaiju type manga type I thought was so cool.
Great. It was
great.
I
don't know. I just loved it. I also thought they just we're taking a break here.
Yeah.
I also thought they nailed the most perfect thing about a 10 to 12-year-old girl. That they're both the most overconfident people you've ever met and very self-conscious.
Yeah, true.
And I just thought like that's a really hard line to do, and she nails that perfectly.
I thought so as well. And now I fully understand what women go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that bad.
No.
Men have it worse.
Or like if it was the 90s and like Billy Crystal's hosting the Oscars and Women Talking got nominated, you could just imagine the old jokes.
Oh my God, yeah.
Here we are, women talking, and then people just like, oh boy.
Now here's my Sammy Davis Jr. impression.
Get out the black veins. I gotta be in blackface here. Yeah.
So let's talk about the weird.
Yes.
So the second time the game cuts to a mini game,
yeah.
Which is basically like Crossy Road.
It is, but like Minecraft style characters.
Yes.
And now it's all of a sudden in 3D.
Yes.
And you need to get through the crowd without them hitting you and bumping into you because they're like kind of moshing at this pop concert. Yeah. And you need to survive and get through that to go find Matt. And I think he's by the merch stand.
You thought he was by the stage. So you're trying to get closer to the stage as Pup is coming on. So they're playing the song. You get the cool graphics. You kind of try to pick up hearts to like get your points, and you're trying to survive for the minute and a half that the song is going on for, or something like that. Kind of a fun game.
Cool. I like that.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
But cool. I love when a game just completely changes pace. Those sorts of things remind me of like Scott Pilgrim or something like that, where it just completely changes the tone. It's very self-aware. And after that, you just have another beer with Matt and you kind of share something. And then you get rated at the end of it on your, and by the way, I didn't have an opportunity to go home with Matt. Did you?
No.
Yeah. So you just kind of part ways and you get rated on the date.
Yep.
Do you remember what you scored?
A.
I got A as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I know that because I got an S for somebody else. And cause that was my second date. Do you want me to get into that?
Yeah. Get in your second
date was with Hugo.
Oh, I didn't go on a date with Hugo.
Okay.
I didn't like Hugo at the cookout because he was so pretentious.
Well,
Okay, tell me about it.
I do like that the the two characters that were that I most thought resembled you. You're like, I do not like those guys.
Wait, who?
Hugo and Matt.
Oh, Hugo.
Yeah.
I remind you of Matt?
Yeah, kind of.
That's very nice of you.
I'm so hot. I'm so painfully hot.
I am outwardly self-conscious.
No, Hugo for sure, just an aesthetic and stuff like that. But he is kind of a prim and proper, a little too much. We go to an aquarium together.
Oh, cool.
And this one also has a mini game.
Uh-huh.
And so what happens is you are, he kind of finds interest in the penguins. And so you want to spend more time with the penguins, and they're kind of like closing the exhibit.
Yeah.
And so you can either like argue with the attendant, or you can bribe them. And I bribed them. I give them $20. I'm like, can you just let us spend time with these penguins?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but you got to help me out. Like, we got to keep these penguins like in this pen.
Amazing. I love that.
And so I have to like shoot like this kind of like, it's kind of like a directional arm, and you could shoot out hands to keep the penguins back.
Okay.
And I only let one penguin escape, which was good. There was like,
where did it go?
40. Oh, I don't know. You know,
that's too high. And one is too high a number, Andrew.
Yeah. There's just like purple. I have no idea what's going on.
Running around Maple Oak or
Maple View, Bay Bridge,
Maple Lake, Maple Lake, I think.
Maple Lake. Yeah, so that was good. And then I gave her the $20, and she seemed really ecstatic about that. I also thought $20 was really low as a bribe.
But you also
could lose her
did
job.
help her work.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you're right. And then you kind of cop to the fact that like Hugo's like, wow, this is kind of cool. How are we still here? I'm like, I gave the kid money. And he was like, oh, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. And I'm like, well, I want to spend time with you.
Oh, that's very cute.
It was nice.
That's very cute.
Yeah.
You know what I would have said to the person who let me, I'm not going to gender them because that got me in trouble last time.
It was a woman.
Okay. I thought you said that. Well, how do you know? Did you ask how they identify?
No, that's a good question. I didn't. It didn't give me the option to. So the game is really the issue.
The game is the issue. And turning red is the issue as well. For not having a disclaimer, this was directed by a woman at the beginning.
A female director. Do you know the first female director in Pixar's history?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because she made, I forget her name, sorry, but she made also Bao, which was the short.
Oh, yeah, I've seen Bao.
Which is really good and sad and cute. Those
Yes.
shorts just crush me.
Yeah.
But also a Toronto film.
Oh, yeah.
And they did it and they screened it in their like little auditorium in California. And everyone was like, okay, so you're gonna make a movie.
Yeah.
And it just like,
That's amazing.
yeah, really cool.
That's
She went
cool.
to OCAD. She's like really cool.
Oh, no
yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Ontario Community
Ontario
Art,
Collegiate Art.
College of Art and Design.
Oh, College of Art and Design.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes.
The what I would have done to the woman who kept the thing open is I would have helped her keep the penguins in, and then she would have been like, "What about the money?" I'd say, "I'm gonna tell your boss that you helped a stranger if you don't let me spend time with Hugo, and you're gonna give me $20."
She looked at me. She's like, "Can you help restrain the penguin?" I'm like, "What am I, the Batman?"
Andrew, I like that.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that.
Thank you.
So what else happened on your date with Hugo?
No, nothing. No, we didn't go home with each other or anything like that, which was also kind of the part. And this was my S tier date.
Okay,
he
nice.
really liked me.
Nice.
And first of all, I can't blame him. Second of all, but that also left me a little confused though. I got it in so fast in this game with
Yes.
Robert. We
Yeah.
just went to we just plowed each other, and then all of a sudden I got to go on these dates. We didn't go on a date. We just met in a bar
yeah.
and went home together. And I'm like,
Well,
this is
that's
great.
Robert's style though.
That is true. That is Robert's style.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden everyone's playing hard to get, and I'm like, is it me? Like, is something wrong with me?
I gave you an S tier date.
Well, okay. Describe your first couple of dates.
So I went on a date with Joseph. This was my first date. I went over to his place because he was baking cookies for
You went to his house where his children and wife live?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, because here's the thing. Is it a date? I don't know.
Right.
You know, he's
Ambiguous.
just, hey, I'm baking with my kids. Why don't you come by and help us out?
Right.
Mary wasn't there.
Thank God.
No, or maybe she was sleeping off a hangover upstairs. I don't know.
Or she's on the prowl at Jim and Kim.
Yeah, she's still doing. No, this is dead smack in the day. So yes, maybe she was on the couch. So I go into the place that I'm greeted by one of Joseph's kids. All his kids are very creepy. It's Chris, Christian.
And there's twins.
Yes, that's Christina. So there's Chris, Christian, Christina, and Krish is another one, which is actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
And I'm greeted at the doorway by one of the kids who's rolling his eyes, and I have to tell him his name, basically like, oh, you are, because I was introduced to them at the party and I got it wrong.
Nice.
Big mistake. But as I come in, Joseph is there and his kids are there, and the two twins, he has twins, often try to creep people out with like this mind meld, like the Shining twins kind of thing.
Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn. So or Come Play With Us.
Oh, yeah,
is also the Shining. So you have the option to like, sorry?
They're ghosts in that.
Child ghosts.
Child ghosts. But Children of the Corn, they try and get into your brain to make you do things.
Yes. So they're doing that in front of me, and I have three options, and one of them is to like laugh it off because Joseph doesn't like when they do this. So Joseph is like, "Kids, stop it!" And then it turns
You're freaking me out.
You're freaking me out. And then I have the opportunity to play into it, which I did.
Oh, very good.
And then I start feeding them lines. Nice. So I'm like, say this, and then there's an opportunity to say something. It's like go with something mainstream or something obscure, and I go obscure, and the kids don't understand it, but the dad understands it as being from Children of the Corn. So
nice. There you go.
Yeah. So that was good. And then we go bake and we're baking these cookies, and we bake them using just box like a Betty Crocker kind of thing. And as we're baking them, he gets a little something on his nose, and I wipe it off and eat. This wasn't a choice. I wipe it off of his nose and like suck my thumb.
Oh my God.
And he starts to blush and like look away and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, that was a lot, whatever. So nothing comes of that. We go to the bake sale, and it's basically him and me trying to sell other people in the town cookies. And people come up, and I have to find what it's going to take to tell this person, what I have to tell this person to get them to buy cookies.
So this is really elaborate.
It was kind of cool, actually. So Craig comes up, and Joseph said, he's like, I think he just comes here to tempt himself, but he's a health nut. He never gets anything.
Exactly.
So I have a couple options, and what I do to sell him on it is I'm like, hey, don't you remember the time when? And then I go into the story, and he ends up doing it, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, Mary comes in. She swoops in, and she's not happy. And she's like, "Oh, this fucking the box recipe, like whatever." And her and Joseph get in like a fight, and she's basically saying like, all your friends are weird in the ministry, and like you only pretend to be happy, but you're not. And she's like talking to me, but telling things to him, and it's really awkward. I have to take sides with one of them, and I just shove a brownie in my mouth because I don't want to, and Joseph doesn't like that. Everything else had been going great with him. And then someone comes and is like, oh, this recipe is amazing. How did you make it? And you have an option. I made it using like a box recipe, or it was we just kind of did it off the dome, or it's just like Nana used to make it. So I say it's just like Nana used to make it, as though that's like an obvious joke. But Joseph says to me, he leans in and he's like, lying's like the one thing like one of the 10 things on this planet we shouldn't do. And he didn't like it. And I was like, fuck you, dude. You're lying to your wife right now. Like, what are you talking about?
A lot of things in the Bible say we shouldn't do that maybe we're okay with.
Exactly. So the date ends. We walk home. He gives me like an extra, like one last brownie. And I got I think an A rating. Okay. And I can either eat the brownie, or I can save it for later. And I walk into the house, and Amanda's there, and she's like, hey, do you have any leftover brownies? And I was like, oh yeah. And I give it to her, and that won some literal brownie points.
Little brownie points.
Yeah. Oh, so that was a good date. Nothing too special. But I kind of left it liking Joseph a little more, because he kind of gives you some hints that there's something more behind his eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, how many dates in total? Like, did you go on a few more?
I went on 3 dates.
Yeah, so I went on 3 as well. And then there were these also like these little side mission kind of things that happen that are just kind of little things. So the one guy we haven't talked about is Damien.
Oh yeah. I had no interest in that guy.
No, not at all. He's like a vampire. He's a fucking vampire.
You know, like he's a vampire.
We're not overselling this. He is a vampire.
The problem is you meet a lot of men in this game. Some of them are children. So when you went to the school to talk to Hugo.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I thought they were going to, yes.
So there's a kid with like a bunch of piercings and shit. Like he's like, whatever, a Skid Row kid. Like he's like, whatever.
Yes.
And so he talks to me. He's like, hey, I'm looking for Hugo. You're the dream daddy, you. Or like, hey, I'm looking for Hugo. And he's like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. Everybody that I've met so far, I have tried to sleep with, unless they are very noticeably attractive.
Yes.
And then I'm looking at,
or a woman.
Or a woman.
Yeah,
exactly. Or have a vagina. And you're like, and so then this kid shows up and I'm like, oh no. He's like in high school.
They kind of sex him up a little bit.
They do. Yeah. And that conversation lasts kind of a while for like, where am I going? Why would you design a character if that's all it is?
Yes.
And so you're like, oh, this is so odd. So that's when like Damien, who I think works at like the Hot Topic in the mall.
Yes.
Is that how you meet him?
Yeah. No, he doesn't work at the Hot Topic. He comes in to complain about something he purchased that described itself as Victorian garb, but it wasn't. And he like chews out the minimum wage worker who's there.
Cool.
And I'm like, fuck this guy.
Yeah,
like this guy sucks.
A lot of reasons I don't want to talk to that guy. Yeah, I didn't do anything with that guy. Yeah. Oh yeah, we haven't talked about Damien. Fuck.
But
yeah,
like honestly, I didn't really pull on that thread too much. Anyway, so I don't know that we need to. But bottom line is, there's a lot of dates and a lot of interactions. I don't think we need to go through them in detail, each of them, but are there any highlights, or where did you end up in your story? What in terms of your relationships with people, what threads were you pulling on, and what were your final thoughts after all the dates?
Well, I got to 2 hearts with Hugo and Matt. So that's another thing on Dad Book. When you're on Dad Book and you click on their little profile, it'll tell them some interests that you have, which also, if you really want to do well in this game, kind of remember those, because those are things you can hit on. Yeah. And then at the top by message, or like kind of go on a date, there are little hearts, and it's out of 3. Yeah. And you can, increasingly as you go on more dates, you get more hearts.
Yes. That was when I first realized this game might not be that long, because you go on one date and you have 1 heart, you go on a second, you have a second heart, and the dates last 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah. And it depends how fast you're reading and stuff like that. There also is like a fast forward button too, which I think is like cheating.
Yes. I never used that.
No, I didn't either. Cause I was like, well, what's that? Cause it was saving. I saw like a little saving button, and I was like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I can't read that fast. I thought the story with Amanda was really good too, because she's going through a very tough time. She lost her mother in our case, and she is not getting into the universities or colleges that she wants. And I thought,
how many letters did she open in front of you?
2.
And she didn't get into either of them?
No, she got in the second one.
Same.
But her first one was the one she wanted to go to.
Yeah.
So, and you're like, oh, so like I found that part was actually much more compelling than the dating simulator part of it.
The dating simulator part, I totally agree. I didn't like it, but I did like the challenge of trying to communicate with your daughter.
Yes.
That was much more engrossing for me. I enjoyed that quite a bit more. So there's one bit, because you mentioned you didn't come home one night.
Yeah.
There's a night where Amanda doesn't come home.
Yes.
Did she use that against you?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember.
That would have been
great.
They should have, because 100%. In my mind, I kind of did the same thing where I was like, you didn't answer me, whatever. And she's like, it's not a big deal. And I just said, I was scared. Like you scared me.
You scared me.
And I don't think that was guilting. I think that was pretty open and honest. So I like that. And those are the kinds of moments where you're like, okay, those decisions I could get behind in a game like this. Ultimately, if you had to play the rest of this game, another hour and a half, and maybe you will, because it's pretty short. And you said you were enjoying it. What would the path be down between Hugo and Matt? Were you leaning more heavily towards one or the other?
Yeah, it would have been Hugo probably. Yeah, even though Hugo's kind of an ass, Matt's a little self-conscious, whatever. Robert's a scumbag. Damien's a vampire. Brian, I don't like.
I wanted nothing to do with Brian.
No, who's the other one I'm missing?
Joseph.
And Joseph is married to a woman.
Yeah, not happily.
I'm not breaking up marriages in my life. So
I think they're doing that just fine.
Yeah, and Mary's doing a job on her own, trying to get them separated. So I probably would have ended up with Hugo. Why? Who'd you end up with?
I think it would have ended up being Joseph.
Wow.
The problem is there were times where I was like, yeah, this religion thing is just, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
But he does kind of like you every so often you think that there's another side of him that wants to just kind of break out. Like he even said, he's like, don't you ever, like, sometimes I just want to like go live on an island. It's like island time. Like he makes a Jimmy Buffett reference and you're like, okay, so this guy, maybe he's only a youth minister because that's just the path that he was on. Who knows? And I wonder if maybe down the line you realize that Mary was the one who was into that life and he wasn't, and he changed everything for her, and he wasn't his true self. But the most interesting thing that happened after I went on my second date with Joseph, how earnestly we're just
honestly made a connection.
After I went on my second date with Joseph I came back to on my way back from like an outing with them. I stopped by Jim and Kim's. And Mary was there. And immediately the caption is like, I'm not sure if this is a good idea to talk to her. And in my mind, I'm like, we haven't had a romantic relationship, Joseph.
No, you've done nothing wrong.
Right. So, but my character feels that he has, and he's like, she's going to know that. And she immediately calls you out on your bullshit. She's like, oh, so you and Joseph seem to be getting along pretty well. And your options are like, yeah, we are, or like, we're just friends, or I take care of him when he needs me. It's like one of those.
Oh.
So I said like, yeah, we're just friends. And she's like, okay, like, sure, whatever you say, blah, blah, blah. She gets very antagonistic. And the last thing she says before she walks by is, you know what's so strange about this? You're not even his type. And then walks away. And I was like, oh shit.
Oh my God.
There's a history here that I was just scratching the surface on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's good.
So that was kind of where I left off in my tale. And I think if I wanted to continue pulling on a thread, not because I want to wreck a home, but because I'm very interested in the way that story kind of ended up expanding, I would have gone that route.
Yeah. I got to kill Mary.
I got to fuck Mary and kill.
Joseph's like, sometimes don't you just want to get away? And you're like, yeah. And you're like, just lock the door, set the house on fire. You're like, whoa.
What is this, The Sims? What are you talking about?
Take out the pool ladder and just let them all drown.
Give Damien a call. I'm sure he knows what to do.
Damien, bunch of fresh new dead bodies. It's like, yes.
I did one side mission where I went to Damien's house.
You did?
Yeah, because a package was delivered to my house that was addressed to him.
Well, you all live in the same cul-de-sac.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And it had dead butterflies in it. And he gave me a dead butterfly as a gift. And I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here as soon as possible.
Cool.
And he was like, I think you would make a great taxidermist. I was like, this is weird as fuck.
Who is
but
into
I'm
this
down.
guy?
I'm down.
Oh, you're down now?
Who knows?
I just love it. Who's like, like whatever. Yeah, Brian was, I'd love to meet people that were like, yeah, I was super into Brian. I'm like, really?
Yeah, Brian's a dick.
Brian's
Fuck
a
Brian.
dick.
Okay, so let's talk general feelings and impressions on this game. I know you kind of just said that you liked it, but I think we should give it a review out of 4. We've spent enough time with it.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead into kind of your thoughts on it and then maybe finish off with your review out of 4?
Yeah, you know what? This game is not at all what I thought it would be. When I started playing Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator, and I booted up Dad Book, I did not at all what I thought I was getting into. Yet, in its very unique and weird and very broad style of storytelling and humor, I kind of fell in love with it a little bit. I kind of like its quirkiness. And we talk about it on this podcast all the time about games that are coming out and how unique games have struggle to create any kind of notoriety. And this game has done that. People have liked it because it is so odd and quirky.
Yep.
But then you kind of play it and like there is oddly a very kind of large heart to it. And while it's not like definitely like, yeah, I'm gonna find love. It is telling the story of a person that doesn't know who they are. And I think that's kind of like a beautiful thing, even in the way that it is. So I really, really enjoyed playing it. It's not for me, it's not a game that I would usually play, just that genre. It's just not something I do.
Dating sim, yeah.
Dating sim. And even then, just a game so on rails, which I'm just very curious at the end of this month how we're going to feel about this. Like maybe this is a style of game I like. Sure. I should maybe say it's not a style of game I have a lot of experience with.
Okay.
Yet I really liked playing it. It definitely is a memorable game. It'll be something where 2 years from now, we play a lot of games on this podcast, and I will be like, we played what? And you're like, yeah, no, it's called Ninja Gaiden. I'm like, right. Okay, yeah. And this one's like, do you remember Dream Daddy? I'm like, absolutely, my man. I remember Dream Daddy.
It stands out.
Yeah.
That's the one with Damien, right?
yeah. God, that dead butterfly's still sitting in my home. I picked it up the other day and went, where's this from? So I really liked it. It's very memorable, and it's absolutely worth a little bit of your time. So oh man, what am I going to give this? It's between 3 and 3.5. I think I'm going to give it a 3 out of 4 because it is so limited in the way it is, but it's totally memorable and fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's through and through. It's a dating sim.
Right.
You like it or you don't. My problem is I have trouble with dating sims in the sense that there's this weird min-maxing element and choosing stereotypes and the way that they make certain characters good but not great, that it just never feels like I'm making the right decision. You know what this game feels like in my mind? Is like in God of War when you get armor and you're not sure which one you want to upgrade because you're like, maybe a better armor will come around and I'm going to want to upgrade that one. So I don't want to spend my time talking to Joseph over Matt because maybe I like Matt, but now I've spent time with Joseph and like I feel guilty about that. But the guilt of having spent time with other people is absent from this game. So you talk about how this game has a weird charm and a weird heart to it. Charm, yes. Heart, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
It's just, in my mind, it doesn't have heart when squirt and eggplant emojis come out of a guy when you say the right thing. It doesn't have heart when there's just so much like overt sexuality and no explanation of why this is all taking place on this cul-de-sac. And then when they try to kind of like shoehorn in magical moments between you and your daughter, I'm like, this is good. What is this other stuff? Like I'm not enjoying it. And if they wanted to make that part more enjoyable, I think they need to make it more interactive. I really just feel like a passenger here. I don't like the character that I'm playing as. I don't like really any of the guys. Like this should be like a fantasy simulator, but instead you're like, it's like, who do you want to settle for?
Yeah.
So not even that element of the fantasy plays out. I'd be so curious to see what fans of dating sims think of this game, how it shapes up. Because in my mind, if this is the best of the best, because this is one of the ones that you hear about, this is not the genre for me. I'm giving this one a 2 out of 4.
Wow.
I'm sure there are dating sims that I would like better, and maybe we'll play one this month, but this is not the one for me. And I don't know if anyone out there is thinking it's because I'm like, I don't want to date you. It's not that. It's just the mechanics of the game and the overall theming and the overall options that you have and the feeling of being stuck as an avatar that I do not like just didn't do it for me.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here first from Retrograde Mikey. God of War Ragnarok and Dream Daddy, very similar.
Well, hey, if Kratos was an option, he is my dream daddy.
Yeah, in both games, he spent a lot of time around men.
Well, you know what I want to say about Ragnarok, and we'll talk about this because I'll be finished the game soon, and we'll talk about it in a future episode.
Famous words.
Yeah, I'm very close. How did he land his wife?
I have no idea. He's such a stubborn bitch. Like, I can't believe that anybody was like, you know what? I love that guy. Like, what? Huh?
So strange.
Such an odd thing. Yeah, whatever. We'll
it's
talk
as weird
about
as
that.
why Matt likes us as our avatars.
I would agree with you. Yeah, like what? A lot of them. Like why? Like Brian. What does he see in me?
I don't know. I thought we disliked each other.
Yeah, I thought he was like, I hate that guy. Whatever. So that's Dream Daddy.
That's
if
Dream
you have played Dream Daddy, if you're going to play Dream Daddy, let us know, where did your story diverge a little bit? Which characters did you like that we didn't give enough of a chance to?
I would love to hear that. Are there any things we missed out on? I want to hear from the person who went after Damien. I want to know what that story is about. That would be a great one.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, do you also become a vampire? Like, that'd be kind of fun.
Bite your neck. That would be a great story.
Great story.
I also want to see anyone who played through the story dressed as Goku.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Before we leave, I just want to say, speaking of people reaching out, we had someone reach out recently, Chud Magnum, at Das Guy on Twitter, reached out to say, left a review for the podcast on Spotify and said, I just started listening to y'all's podcast the last couple weeks. By the way, the fact that he said y'all's, cool as shit.
Yeah, he wrote it.
I'd date that dream daddy. Last couple weeks since I work overnights and need something to occupy my brain, I'm on like the Castle Crashers episode now. And I was randomly thinking after the Pokemon Stadium episode, y'all never even mentioned the mini games, and it pissed me off, and I'm still mad about it. It's true.
Yeah, that is true.
But otherwise, it was a great review that he gave us, and he reached out and he said that he's basically listened to like 140 hours of the podcast over the last month. So I always like to give a shout out to the listeners who have been that dedicated, and we appreciate it. And if you've been similar and listening to us in our back catalog, hit us up at Retrograde Mikey, at Retrograde Andy, or at Retrograde Pod on Twitter. Also, we're on TikTok and Instagram and all that good stuff. You can send us an email to retrogradepodcast@gmail.com as well.
And if you want to be famous like Chud Magnum, you could leave a review everywhere.
Leaving reviews, that's the best way you're going to hear
best
from
way
us.
to support us.
If you leave us a review, we are very likely to read it on the episode because we love hearing from you guys that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's also FeBOOary, which is the second scariest month of the year now because of relationship dating simulators, which is going to continue all month.
It is.
And over at patreon.com, we've got some stuff that we're going to be dealing with as well.
Yeah, we do.
Which I think it's time for more.
That's a big siren coming by.
Yeah. I think it's time for like relationship advice over at the patreon.com.
You know what? I like that. If you have any questions, send it to us. Maybe we'll answer it either on the main feed or the Mushroom Club.
100%. But until then, we love every single one of you. You're our dating simulators. For Dream Daddy Andrew Bascom, this is the bad boy of podcasting himself, Dream Daddy
Mikey Aaronworth.
Yeah, Dream Daddy. I just want to say Dream Daddy as much as possible. I'm running out of time. I can say Dream Daddy.
That's fair.
This is the Retrograde Podcast.
Game over.
Dream Daddy.
Dream Daddy. Dream Daddy.
Furnished by Sad Styles Productions.
We got to talk about this cul-de-sac.
Sack indeed.